This is a fairly steep hill, rising to 70 metres above sea level and partly surrounded by trees. And this is one of the most important ancient hill forts in South Wales. This is Dinas Powys. Dinas Powys is a large village about 5 miles west of Cardiff. Here in this aerial photograph from 1947, we can see the hill fort in the top right at a time when the plateau of the fort was clear of trees, unlike today. Close up, we can see these deep ditches and banks around the hilltop. These are typical of a prehistoric hill fort. In Britain, hill forts were mostly made in the Iron Age between 700 BC to the time of the Roman invasion in the 1st century AD, and archaeologists have indeed found Iron Age pottery here. But Dinas Powys is a bit different from most hill forts. Most of the artefacts found here, and most of the ditch and bank building, seems to be from the 5th to the 7th centuries AD, the early medieval period. This was after the Romans had left this area, and well after the end of the Iron Age. To the south, where we've just come from, there are 4 ditches and banks, and then the ground slopes away more gradually. Across one of the ditches is a raised area, and that's called the causeway. Beyond that, there are 2 more ditches and banks, but they haven't yet been dated reliably, and they don't have an obvious defensive role. To the north, there are no ditches and banks at all, but just a hill going down very steeply. To the west, there's a single bank and ditch, and then the hill slopes down fairly steeply from there. And to the east, again a single earth bank there, and then the hill goes down fairly steeply from there as well. The whole site, and this is the centre of the site, the whole site is about half a hectare in size. It's about the size of a football pitch. It's quite small for a hill fort. For ancient hill forts like this, most archaeologists believe that the ditches and banks were built for defensive purposes. But if so, it isn't clear exactly how they worked. Perhaps they slowed down attackers, or acted as a deterrent. Archaeologists dug here extensively in the late 1950s, and they found dozens of post holes around the edge of the site at the top, inside that top bank. It's believed those post holes would have held wooden pillars, and those pillars would have formed a kind of palisade. This could have given added defence or deterrence to the fort. But there's more evidence which builds a picture of the people who lived here, and why they may have needed to protect themselves. Archaeologists found imported glass and Mediterranean vessels here from around the 5th century to about 700 AD. There was large containers were brought from the eastern Mediterranean and from North Africa with very possibly oils and wine, and there was more evidence of feasting, including thousands of animal bone fragments which were found here. Also there was evidence of the manufacture of jewellery, including fragments of crucibles for the making of, or for the shaping of precious metals, including very possibly copper alloy, silver and gold, and certainly evidence for the manufacture of iron. So you can see that there was quite a well-established trading focus here, with very likely quite a wealthy establishment who were based here. There are other signs of people living here, including 2 dry stone buildings, some hearths or fireplaces, and a grave. So most of the evidence points to occupation between about the 5th and 7th centuries AD, and fairly strong trading relationships in order to bring those valuables from overseas. Perhaps a smallish, well-connected group of people who were hanging on to their wealth and their trading relationships after the Romans left the area. So you could understand why they may have needed to protect themselves and their possessions. In fact, the Anglo-Saxons didn't come here in the early 5th century. The locals were left alone. So here at Dinas Powys, we can see the transition as the Roman Empire ended and the indigenous Romano-British people defined a new life, a new identity for themselves. The people who lived here may not have been typical of the time, but the evidence they've left us gives us a rare glimpse into their life, the everyday life of a well-connected group of people right after the Roman colonists left Britain.